Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, welcome back. Saturday afternoon, new episode, Films and Stuff. This is not an emergency episode, but it is quite important.
We had an emergency episode on Obi Wan Kenobi.
We did.
And that was such an impactful season finale that it made you go and watch episode 4, A New Hope.
1977.
Good God.
And it's aged quite well. So, as you and I were just saying off mic, it's been a long time since we both watched A New Hope.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I sat down and watched it end to end.
Nor can I. And that's why after our emergency episode where both you and I basically blew a gasket in how
mildly.
That's putting it mildly. I had to say, you know what? I'm wondering how much of this was actually consistent or inconsistent with A New Hope. I did go back. I watched it again. There's a few things that have adjusted my perspective. Not changed it, but adjusted my perspective, or maybe how harsh I was. And
on
also,
the Obi-Wan show?
On Obi Wan Kenobi.
Okay.
And I also have to say, my first comment is, A New Hope has actually aged pretty well. That's 1977. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. That's 45 years old. That's shocking to me. 45 years old. And it's aged good. It has really aged good. Partially because it's based in space. So, I mean, it's not supposed to be like fashion and you don't see people's, jean styles and stuff like that. So it's aged well. I have to say there were some typical George Lucas kind of like blips that I caught. And one of the first blips I caught right away was that when you see the Rebel Star Destroyer chasing down Leia's vehicle, right?
Yep. AKA the end of Rogue One.
Yeah, the end of Rogue One. Leia puts, basically like a SIM card inside the R2 unit. Mm-hmm. And then she says, hey guys, now that our ship is captured and stormtroopers are looking for these plans, I'm just going to get you guys in this escape pod and just launch the escape pod and go find Ben Kenobi. And then the general says, hey, an escape pod just launched, but we don't detect any life forms.
Life signs,
and then another general says, yeah, it must be a malfunction. Let it go. And I was like, oh, man, that would never happen. Like, come on. Like, I thought that was just like a gaping George Lucas hole. And they also just wrote it so dramatically like, oh, no life forms. Let it go. They probably could have done that looking back in hindsight, they probably could have done that a little bit less clumsy. They could have launched it before they were boarded. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to do it, but that was number one. Mm-hmm. The second thing I noticed was I always thought Luke was a really whiny, immature kind of guy. And my perspective was that after he was kidnapped by Reva, he would have grown up to be much stronger, probably a little bit more like cautious, self-sufficient. I just thought he'd have like a more alpha male dominant personality after going through this childhood trauma. Sure. And actually, when I watched it again, he did kind of whine to his uncle and aunt about like the work that he had to do. But at the same time, they mentioned at least twice that he raced speeders and that he was pretty good at it. And also, if you recall, the R2 unit escaped one night. And the next morning, he woke up early with 3PO and they went to get it. And then they saw these sand people. Remember, this is before Ben Kenobi kind of came and saved them. And Luke was pretty, I would say, adventurous, where he wasn't like, hey, sand people, we got to get out of here. He's like, hey, let's go up to the ridge and let's take a look. and he got his binoculars and he was kind of looking at them. I thought that was kind of bold. He wasn't like a run kind of guy. He was like a, hey, let's check it out kind of guy. And then when the sand person appeared right in front of him, it kind of knocked him over. He dodged a punch. He like did kind of like a little barrel roll and avoided another punch. And then, of course, he got knocked unconscious. And that's when Ben Kenobi came in. But I have to say, he put up enough of a fight where I kind of rethought, what a wuss he was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that struck me. Then I think it gets a little bit screwy because when Kenobi introduces himself, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't really square with Obi Wan Kenobi, the series that we just saw. For example, Obi-Wan says, or Luke says, hey, like this R2-D2 is looking for someone called Obi Wan Kenobi. Do you know anyone by that name? Is he related to you? And Obi-Wan says, Obi-Wan, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. I haven't been known by that name since before your father died. And that's not really true. He goes by Obi-Wan throughout Obi-Wan.
Yeah, but remember, he had already taken the persona of Ben Kenobi as well.
Yeah.
And I think Obi-Wan was kind of just his, like, he didn't want people to know he was Obi-Wan.
Yeah. So I thought that didn't square. And then remember, Obi-Wan gives Luke a lightsaber. And he says, this was your father's. He wanted you to have it. That doesn't square at all with what we just saw in the Obi-Wan series.
How? Why doesn't it square?
Where does he get that lightsaber from?
Oh, no, man. So the lightsaber he has in A New Hope is the same lightsaber that he picks up from Anakin Skywalker's body at the end of episode 3 when he leaves him burning on Mustafar. And Darth Vader's lightsaber is a brand new lightsaber that we see in Obi-Wan Kenobi and in episode 4, 5, and 6. Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader have always had 2 lightsabers. One that's the red one. That's his dark side one, and his blue one, which was taken away from him by Obi-Wan at the end of episode 3. And that is the same prop.
Oh, I didn't know that. But his father wanted him to have it? Is that necessarily true?
Well, no, but the idea was that he didn't want to tell him that his father turned to the dark side either, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, that would have robbed the emotional reveal of episode 5.
All right. The next thing I noticed was now we fast forward to when the group is on the Millennium Falcon and they see the Death Star, right? What planet was blown up?
Alderaan.
Alderaan was blown up, right? So they're going to Alderaan, right? Alderaan is blown up by the Death Star. Yeah. And then they see the Death Star. They say, oh, produced by that small moon. That's no moon. It's actually the Death Star that has the tractor beam.
Does the ship not? Does the Star Destroyer not have one?
It was
in A New Hope?
In A New Hope, it is because at the end of Rogue One, you don't see a tractor beam used. You just see the Star Destroyer hover over it.
Oh, that's right. And Darth Vader looking out over that open bay. Maybe, you know what? That's on us. Because I thought that it had
there was a tractor beam, but the tractor beam is the Death Star. But still, I think the same, to be honest, our logic is not wrong. There's obviously tractor beam capability.
Tech. Yeah.
And also, that Star Destroyer still, it caught up with Leia's ship quite easily, right? And that was a proper rebel, I don't know what you want to call that.
Corvette.
Battle, right? Mm-hmm. There's no excuse why at the end of Obi-Wan they couldn't track down that small little freighter.
Yeah. That's a plot hole that's pervasive.
That's a plot hole. And even more, another plot hole, and I think you read this in an article at end of Obi-Wan. Remember, Vader, whoever was the Grand Inquisitor's like, hey, let's follow the rebels. And Vader's like, no, we've got to go get Obi-Wan. And then Vader takes his own ship. They could have gone separate ways.
Yes, they absolutely could have.
Like, divide and conquer. Vader's like, hey, I'll go chase Obi-Wan in his little escape pod.
Because he had them stand by anyway.
yeah, you take this Star Destroyer and go continue on and get the rebels. That's pretty weak sauce.
Yes, I
and
fully
then
agree.
My last point is we were both happy, quite happy, with how strong Vader was throughout this Obi-Wan series. In A New Hope, Vader is strong, but actually, like, he had like this one general who kind of talked back to him. Remember, Vader then choked him?
Yep.
And then that other general, I don't know his name, but he's a guy who's Tarkin,
Grand
right?
Moff
Who's
Tarkin, yeah.
Right? Said, Vader, release him. Right? And more than once gave Vader kind of like instructions. And it kind of appeared like Vader listened to him more than once.
My understanding of that, because that was something I
Yeah.
never understood as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
And my understanding of that was that Palpatine and Vader, Palpatine is like the king or like the emperor or whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like he's, the
He's
top
the
of
emperor.
the top of the chart is what I mean. Right?
Yeah.
In the org chart, he is the top of the top. He's like maybe if you want to use the business parlance, he's probably more like a chairman / CEO. Right?
Okay.
And Vader is more like the chief operating officer, whereas Tarkin is more like the guy. Tarkin is more like the CEO, and Palpatine is more like the chairman of the board, and the chairman of the company. Which is to say that Vader had to listen to whatever Tarkin said because Tarkin was the head of the military army and the military units. So, and Vader was working for him because Palpatine placed him there. That's my read on it. Obviously, that's not the most elegant answer.
Yeah.
But that's my read on it, is that
Yeah.
he is a feared guy, but at the end of the day, he's still a cog in the machine because his space dad put him into that machine.
Yeah, I think that reading, when you watch A New Hope, I think that reading is fine.
Yeah.
When you watch Obi Wan Kenobi followed by A New Hope, right, which is sequential, not directly sequential in time, it cuts against that, right? Because in Obi-Wan, Vader is, apart from Palpatine, he is responsible for everything, and he is directly telling people what to do, and he's got his own agenda, right? And then when you see A New Hope, it's kind of like, Vader's definitely there, but yeah, there's like a military guy in charge.
So I think that, and again, please reach out to us. Tell us if we're right. Tell us if my reading is right or wrong. Aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com.
Aloha.
I think my feeling on that is that Vader has got his own little group called, and he's the leader of the Inquisitors. And this Star Destroyer and this mission was him leading the Inquisitors. It wasn't a mission for Palpatine. It wasn't a mission for the Empire. It was a mission for just the Inquisitors and for himself. So Palpatine tasked Vader to find these Force-sensitive guys to eliminate them. They created the Inquisitors, and Vader is the de facto leader of the Inquisitors. That's my take on it. And so he is the guy in charge. But when it comes to matters of the Empire overall, and this is kind of what we talked about in the emergency episode, when we see the hologram of Palpatine telling him, are you focused on the right thing or not? I think that's him basically saying, your personal missions have to take a back seat to the Empire's missions.
Yeah.
And maybe this is, I side with you on this. I think this is maybe we're reading too much into this. Maybe it's also Palpatine kind of putting Vader in his place to say, by the way, you have to report to Grand Moff Tarkin because of your failures to capture Obi-Wan in this mission, for example.
Yeah. Because even like when they're interrogating, remember they've got Princess Leia in like this interrogation room, right?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
And then when they blow up Alderaan, it's not Vader's idea actually.
Was it Tarkin that initiated it?
Yes.
Okay.
Because he asks Leia like, I'm going to blow up this planet. Tell me, where is the rebel base? And she says it's on Dantooine, right? And he says, see, Lord Vader, that wasn't so difficult. And then he goes, all right, continue the exercise, blow it up. And Leia's like, what? I told you. He's like, yeah, I don't trust you. He's like, we'll get to that planet anyway, but like, I'm still making a point to you, right? That's all his plan and his instruction. Vader is in that scene, but it's actually not Vader's like instruction or command. And so I thought that actually plays well with what you've explained. I was just kind of struck by the fact that it's not inconsistent, but it's also not entirely consistent with what we saw in Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, which I've also pointed out, is that's the reason I liked the prequels and the other movies like Rogue One and the Obi-Wan series, which is in A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and in Return of the Jedi, we are always told that Darth Vader is one of the most, if not the most powerful Force users, and he's like the man to be feared.
Yeah.
But if you look objectively at all of his actions during the movies, he's kind of emasculated by Tarkin. He's reporting to Tarkin. He's reporting to Palpatine. He's not really, and all the showcases of him using the Force are kind of like, okay, here's a little bit of a push. Here's a little bit of the Force pull to throw something into Obi-Wan. Here's a little bit of a Force choke. That's fine, but you don't get the feeling like that's what the Forces can really do as a power. It's not that kind of, it's not a big deal. Yeah. But then in Obi-Wan, you get to see like, oh man, you can snap someone's neck. You can hold down a ship. Dude, the Force is a thing to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed, although it's not at all substantive, is that, Vader's costume looked exceptional in Obi-Wan. It looked great. Yeah. Like his helmet, like
brand new.
When I watched A New Hope again, and I mean, part of this is just what they had for props in 1977, but like you could see his helmet. I mean, like it didn't nearly have the same level of shine as they did now in Obi-Wan. You could see like they just kind of like, I mean, it was not dinged up, but I mean, it wasn't like as polished. You could tell there are little like kind of chips and dings in it. I mean, it was what you'd expect of a costume in 1977, whereas when you watched Obi-Wan, like his helmet was like a piano shine, like it was a great costume. It was still the same design as you saw in 1977. But when I watched it, I was like, it looks like, someone forgot to buff their helmet this morning. It looks like he, just got done kind of like in a battle. It's a little bit like scuffed up and
it's the same. It's the equivalent of when we see the Millennium Falcon for the first time in Solo compared to the Millennium Falcon we knew from 4, 5, and 6, right? It's brand new. Everything looks white instead of like an off-white, and everything works. And And by the way, I caught this on an I didn't catch this. I read this on like this video. I saw this on a video that recaptured all the Easter eggs. So you remember when we see at the end of Return of the Jedi, when we see Vader takes his helmet off just before he dies, and he's like talking to Luke, and you can see that he's got a massive scar on the left side of his forehead. Yeah. Right? And that's the same place where Obi-Wan kicked his ass in the end of episode 6 in Obi-Wan when he slices off his helmet. I was like, oh, that's such a nice bit of consistency. I thought that was wonderful. I didn't put it together until I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I didn't compare those scenes so closely, but I could at least tell that they worked very hard to make those consistent, like the makeup was consistent. Yeah. And I think that's really important just because to see the face, I mean, I remember like in Empire Strikes Back when I saw Vader's face, I mean, we were just like aghast, right? Like in the cinema, like, oh my God, like, what is he going to look like? Yeah. What is he going to look like? Yeah. I mean, that was just like such a huge reveal. Can you remind me, I've forgotten this, but when did Luke get the green lightsaber?
After he loses his lightsaber
His
at the
hand?
end of because he gets his hand cut off at the end at the end and when Vader cuts off his hand, his lightsaber falls down in Cloud City.
Yeah.
Just before Luke jumps off into the ventilation shaft.
Yeah.
And that's when he gets we see the new one. He rebuilds the new one in time for Return of the Jedi. And then we see his blue lightsaber. Next, we see it at the end of Force Awakens when Rey is given it to her by, I can't remember.
Mos Eisley. Not Mos Eisley.
No. In the new cantina.
Yeah.
She gets it there. It's given to her again there.
Yeah. How did they get it back?
We're never told.
Yeah.
We're never told. So I don't know, but yes, so it was that he gets his green one.
So that's really Anakin's lightsaber.
Yes, it is. That's exactly right because for episodes 1 and 2, Luke was using his dad's lightsaber.
Yeah.
Which was Anakin's lightsaber, which Obi-Wan gave to him at the beginning of A New Hope, which Obi-Wan took from Anakin at the end of episode 3.
So does anyone get Obi-Wan's lightsaber?
That's a great question because it ends up on the floor.
I got a good question for Pete on Star Wars.
That's a fantastic question.
Because Vader strikes him down, right? And just his
he
robe
disappears into a pile of robes. Yes, that's right.
And you see the lightsaber fall on the robe, and then Vader takes his foot and kind of like steps on it to like make sure like there's nothing in the robe. But Luke, at the same time, remember, he sees him get struck down. He's like, no. And then they start blasting everything. And then they all get in the Falcon. The tractor beam is deactivated and they fly away. So that lightsaber is still on the Death Star unless someone else has recovered it.
Presumably Darth Vader has. So
he just puts it in the trash chute. The trash compactor.
Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe exactly. But that's great. I don't know. Actually, I actually don't have any idea what happens to.
I don't think it's ever been. I don't think it's ever been addressed. Right? It was just.
Or if it has, it's maybe been addressed like in an offline thing, like a book or a comic or something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, A New Hope. I was just surprised by how well it aged. I was a little bit cringing. I'm like, oh man, like I don't want to watch it if it's going to be so terrible. And I have to say, like, I was pretty. I have to say, like, it softened me a little bit on Obi-Wan. Still, I think there were a lot of like intellectual gaps. I mean, come on, some of these chase scenes were terrible. Some of the strategic decision making was terrible. I mean, we went through the deficiencies, ad nauseum. But I've softened a little bit on the consistency with it.
Very happy to hear you say though that it still holds up because I was worried that after we saw Obi-Wan, I was worried you were going to watch A New Hope. And again, you watched it, I think, primarily because Obi-Wan just ended. And I thought you were going to tear up A New Hope. And I'm glad to hear that is not the case.
Yeah. I was really surprised. I mean, if I had like a son or a daughter who's kind of like film age, I could absolutely watch that movie again and show it to them and feel like confident about it. Sometimes you watch a movie, you're like, it's going to be really hard to like get someone to be like into this movie.
We don't have a son or daughter who's movie age, but we do have an adopted son/friend who has never seen any of the Star Wars movies. So we should sit down with him.
Can we really call him a friend?
We should sit down with him, just strap him to the sofa and force him to sit there and watch it with us.
I mean, it's just really curious to me how you cannot have seen any of the original Star Wars trilogy. Oh,
it's a franchise. It's one of, I would say it's the only, but I would also say it's one of the few franchises that has possibly had the biggest global impact. if you think about it.
It has. It has everything that we say. The evil empire is a thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was never. I mean, Jaws, Godfather. I mean,
no,
there's
but those
never
are like
really,
distinctly American, and if not American, Western.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that, The Godfather could be used as a reference for anything. Like, if I say, don't be Alfredo, you and I instinctively understand what that means.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't think that would resonate anywhere outside of the West.
But I'm just saying, I don't think that there was another sequel. I think Jaws had a sequel, but it was just like another Jaws. It wasn't really like a continuity. The Godfather did, but apart from The Godfather, I don't think there was another true sequel until Empire Strikes Back. And definitely not, again, forget The Godfather Part 3, not a triquel? Is that what I call it? I don't know. A trequel?
A trequel? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. A second sequel.
Re-sequel? So, and I think the biggest contribution is, again, Empire Strikes Back has, I think in cinematic history, the most unexpected reveal ever, which is Vader's Luke's father.
Greatest shock. I mean, by far the greatest shocking reveal.
Now nothing, I mean, come on, we make a living, so to speak, talking about what the reveal is going to be and what's going to happen. Now it's expected that there's an unexpected reveal, right?
Yeah.
But until Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, I think that it was just shocking to audiences like, that's his.
Well, you say that. I think we say that because probably from our generation, that would be the case. But like, I would argue the same for Citizen Kane when everyone's like, what the hell is Rosebud? Who is Rosebud? What is Rosebud? That was a pretty big reveal too, right? I'm not saying that it's not or it is. I just think that that's a generational thing.
What a disappointing.
Or the Maltese Falcon.
What a disappointing reveal Rosebud.
Was.
What was Maltese Falcon reveal?
That the statue that he had was the Maltese Falcon, that it was the gold statue was painted over to not look like it wasn't the real statue, but it really was.
Oh, I don't think I don't know if I've seen the Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is I think that's a generational thing, which is to say that
maybe you're right.
For us, we would definitely say that was the biggest, jaw on the floor gasp moment. But for our grandparents or for our great grandparents, I don't think that would necessarily be the case.
The toboggan.
Yeah. The sled. Rosebud was his sled all along. He had the Maltese Falcon in his hands the entire time.
All right. So anyway, that's A New Hope. I think if anyone hasn't seen it in a while, definitely. I watch Empire Strikes Back once every. I watch way more often. Yeah. I would say maybe once every 3 to 4 years at most. Yeah. At least, rather. Yeah.
I
have to say, Harrison Ford is quite funny in A New Hope. I think that garbage compactor scene is cinematic classic.
I think Harrison Ford is also the guy who is us in every scene, right? He's pointing out the blatantly ridiculous things that there's going on.
We're fine. We're all fine. Everything is fine. How are you? Negative. There's a big leak up here. Very dangerous. Very classic. Also, there was one other small issue that super annoyed me as well, which was, when they're in the trash compactor, C-3PO leaves his communication device kind of like on the console counter, and then he comes back and grabs it. And I was like, dude, like, why did you ever leave your communication device? Like, you should always like be having that. That's the whole point of having the communication device.
And then also, I mean, isn't that something that should be built in? Like, don't you have wireless antennas in your head? You're a robot.
I agree. That's a pretty classic movie. Anyway, that's all I've got.
So, guys, New Hope still stands up. I'm really happy to hear that.
45 years. That's amazing.
So don't fret if you liked or didn't like Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
let us know. But, you're fine. It's okay. It's not.
It's all fine.
It's not. Yeah. It has not. Obi-Wan, for good or for bad, has not ruined any of the original franchise.
No.
So don't.
It just hasn't done a whole lot to enhance it, It hasn't enhanced. It's definitely filled in some gaps, but it hasn't really changed anything. Could have been better.
Right.
Anyway. Thank you, Pete. Another wonderful episode. We will hear everyone next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Ethan. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.